good morning, Stackers. Welcome to another Money in the Morning. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter, and we do these live on Facebook in the morning every day that I'm here in the basement. Today it's a cold day in the basement, 7 degrees in Texarkana, and Mom's got her slippers on. I've got the space heater running. But today we've got a couple great headlines. Headline number one, stock I wrote in our preview that our stock in Walmart went through the roof. Stock in Walmart didn't go through the roof. Stock in H&R Block, because there's a new Walmart H&R Block marriage, and we'll talk about that, new partnership. And second, love this headline. Is there going to be stock market armageddon? A bond sell-off, one new article says, could signal armageddon for the stock market. That sounds bad, so maybe we should get into it. Today's show brought to you by Stacky Benjamin's Courses. Kathleen and I, we just finished up the new 2018. I don't know what century I'm in. The new 2018 tax law changes, and what does that mean? So if you're interested in learning more about your taxes and legally cheating on your taxes, head to learn.stackybenjamins.com for more there. Let's jump into it. We've got a lot of headlines, and you've got places to go, so let's move.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
First headline comes to us from CNBC. This written by Thomas Frank. It says shares of H&R Block jumped nearly 1% last week after the company announced an exclusive partnership with Walmart. The deal will make H&R Block the sole tax software provider at Walmart stores. H&R Block will be, quote, the new exclusive do-it-yourself desktop tax software provider available at Walmart stores nationwide and sold directly by Walmart on walmart.com, the report said. This exclusive retail partnership brings the value, innovation, and support of H&R Block do-it-yourself desktop software products to the world's largest retailer, making the do-it-yourself products even more convenient for clients. Lots of do-it-yourself products out there when it comes to your taxes. And I think really, instead of focusing on this particular marriage and this particular partnership in H&R Block, let's focus on your taxes for a second, because a lot of people are starting to do their taxes. And should you go it alone, or should you have a tax person help you with your taxes? Here's the deal. A lot of the tax software that's out there now does a fantastic job of asking you a lot of the right questions that you might have about your taxes, and will make sure that you don't miss anything. Clearly, the thing that bothers me is when I see people still using a piece of paper and a pencil, because whenever I would review those people's taxes, I would find, and I'm not a tax advisor, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax preparer, but I've seen enough tax forms to know what I'm looking at. And I would find, even me, I would find lots and lots of mistakes. So pen and paper, pencil and paper, don't do it that way. Number two, tax software. If you have any type of a side hustle, side business, I'd have somebody in your corner still, because there are a lot of questions you can ask yourself. Now, here's the deal. There are some people out there that do taxes that still only just input the stuff that you can put in yourself. And if you're at all great with your keyboard, if you can figure out some of this desktop software, I'm not having that person. The person I want is the person who's going to teach me as a business owner which questions to ask. And a lot of people, if you've got your first side business, so you decide that you're going to walk dogs, let's say, you might not know that the leash that you bought, you can deduct the cost of that off of any income that you make. You might strap on a set of headphones and you're listening to music, listening to the Stacky Benjamin Show or Money in the Morning while you're walking the dog. You can write off that stuff. So lots of things out there that you can ask that software might not tell you. These are the available questions. A good tax advisor might even tell you how to set up your company in case you get sued. Something happens with the dog. I love this dog walking analogy. Something happens with the dog. Good tax advisor might say, You should set up your company this way. So I'm not just looking for somebody to do what H&R Block would do. I'm actually looking for somebody to help me figure out what questions to ask. And as we go over to the people on Facebook Live, Gregory, hey, Gregory. Gregory says, any advice on how to find a good tax advisor? Is this the same person who prepares your taxes? The answer is yes. A good financial advisor, if they're a holistic advisor, like a fee only or a fee-based advisor, will often know. I help my clients a lot determining some of the tax questions, but you want the person who's filling out your taxes also to be a good tax advisor, to say, you know what, you should put the puzzle together this way. What was frustrating for me was when someone's financial advisor and their tax advisor came to blows. It was always frustrating for me when somebody brought a tax advisor to the table and the tax advisor didn't want to work with me. It became what we call, and I hate this term, but it's what everybody called it, a pissing contest. Hey, I'm a better advisor than this person is, so I'm going to take all the advice they gave you and I'm going to tell you why it's bad. And often that happened when the tax advisor or the financial advisor had other advisors that they preferred to work with, and their goal was to try to get you to work with just their little group. Didn't like that at all. So the best thing for you to do in that case, get your advisors in the same room, get them talking. You need their expertise to dovetail for you. So that's our first headline. And I think the big takeaway here is, how do you do your taxes? Depends on where you're at. You got a side business, maybe have somebody. If you are somebody who doesn't, maybe this, heading to Walmart and buying this H&R Block software is fine. It really depends on your personal situation. I'll tell you what's a great resource. One of the early episodes of my friend Devin's podcast, Big Picture Retirement. Sorry, Devin. Big Picture Retirement, one of the early episodes, literally in the first 5, they talk about tax advisors. That's a great place to go. Let's move into our second headline. Well, before we do that, let's see what else is going on Facebook Live. Frank, alluding to our second headline, says Armageddon. We'll wait till you hear about that. Neighbor Doug in the basement just says something spelled all wrong. Doug's probably got some strong coffee this morning after a heck of a night at the Sizzler last night. Jason says, I went to one of those in-store tax prep companies years ago, and I sat there verbally answering questions as they fill an online form. It was just like I hired somebody to fill out a form as opposed to actually getting advice and guidance. Yeah. A lot of the people that those stores hire, literally, Jason, doing exactly what you're talking about, just filling out the form. So why would I pay extra to have somebody do that? And often they'll offer ancillary products and services. So not only did they do what you could do, but you also might get a sales pitch. Isn't that fantastic? Our second headline comes to us from, let me pull it up here, comes to us from CNN. A bond market sell-off could be Armageddon for the market. That sounds bad, doesn't it? This is written by Paul LaMonica. Says the stock market keeps hitting record highs because of a potent cocktail of strong earnings and solid global economic growth. The corporate tax cut is a nice little chaser, but some experts are increasingly concerned that the hangover will be a doozy. They worry that U.S. bond yields will rise much more dramatically than Wall Street expects. That could force the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates more aggressively to fight inflation and stop the market rally, slow the economy, and make it more expensive for people in business to get loans. Oh boy, I read this and I think, holy cow, the sky's falling. It is time for me to sell everything. We've talked about that on past episodes. I don't want to focus on that. Just don't do it. Look long term when it comes to your money. Don't look at the short term. If we've had bond interest rates go up in prior economies, and you know what happens? Maybe the stock market does slow for a while, but unless you want to guess what the day is it's going to slow, and then the day it's going to pick back up again, just make sure your money is money that you don't need for 10 to 15 years and ride it out. If you've got the right positions, ride it out and hit the rebalance button a couple times a year. Because if you just rebalance your portfolio, you're always going to sell what's high and buy what's low. And you've got that. I want to focus, though, on this whole idea. A lot of people don't understand this idea they're talking about how bond yields are going to make this happen, right? Why is it that bond yields are going to make Armageddon happen? Well, bond yields go up. So here's the way that it works. And there's going to be people that know bonds better than me. They're going to be yelling at their device saying, no, you oversimplified it. Well, probably, but we're just trying to do a 101 here. So here's what happens. The Fed only manages a sliver of interest rates out there. And it's these intraday loans that banks, very, very short-term loans that banks loan each other, right? But when they raise that interest rate a little bit, now banks now have to raise the rates on their products that to recapture that money. So they pass the cost on to you. So you'll see interest rates that are directly affected by that will be like car loans, credit card interest rates. Those can be directly hit when it comes to the Fed raising rates. And you'll also see it's going to be a little slower because banks want to make a profit, right? But you'll also see CD rates go up and savings account rates go up. As an example, we used to look at Magnify money. About a year ago, we were looking at 1.2%. Now we're at 1.6% when people had to magnify money and look at interest rates. So there's a direct correlation to lending products. Think about the big profit, and then savings rates also go up. But what does that also mean? When we get in that type of an economy, now we have loans that companies take from other companies or from other people in the form of bonds. Now bond rates also go up. And why is that? Companies want to take a loan for as little money as possible. That's what a bond is. I'm borrowing money. I'm building a new plant, so I'm borrowing money. And when I do that, I want to pay as low a rate as possible. Well, that's going to be based on the same thing is based on for you and me. Companies have credit scores. Companies like Moody's and Duff and Phelps rate other companies like FICO rates you and me for our credit score and says, hey, guess what? This company is looking pretty good. They don't have much debt. When they do have debt, they pay it off early. So we're going to give this company a high ranking. And when that happens, a company can say, yeah, you know what? We're not going to pay investors very much money on these bonds because we don't have to pay a high interest rate. Much like if you have an 800 credit score, you can kind of dictate your terms. Companies with with great credit get a lower interest rate, but they still are in a competitive environment. And when the Fed raises that rate, and now you see banks giving higher rates, now you see companies then saying, well, it's a higher interest rate environment. I got to notch my interest rate up so that I get people to loan me money. Another company will do the same thing. So I can't offer 4% if everybody else is paying 6%. Nobody's going to loan me any money. If companies with a similar risk exposure do the same. So in that environment, if companies have to pay a higher and higher interest rate to get you to loan them money, that means they have to recapture that somehow by either selling more goods, making the goods more expensive, which is why inflation goes up. So we see that this ripples through the economy, and to this piece, what this piece is talking about is that it slows everything down, right? It does. Anywhere in there did I say it creates Armageddon? No. This piece says it can create Armageddon. What a wild word. Why when the financial press writes about stuff, do we use words like Armageddon? Or whenever the stock market goes up, it soars, right? Or whenever it goes down a little bit, it's crashing, right? I mean, if I was on a plane and it was always soaring or crashing, I think that would be horrible. I mean, H&R Block shares jump, right? That they jump. Some pretty strong language. Let's go back to Facebook Live. We got quite a few people watching us today. Neighbor Doug says, hey, don't lecture me, man. Your mom does enough of that for the butt. She does. She lectures Doug. But you know what? Doug needs to be lectured. Leandro says, hola, amigos. Tax-wise, crazy question. I'm a consultant and spend most of my time in the U.S., so I must pay taxes to Uncle Sam in the U.S. and not Tio Pedro in Mexico, but I relocate to different states every 3 or 4 weeks for clients. What would you say is my address if I've been on most states in the U.S.? Wow, above our pay grade, Leandro. Guess what? You're the guy that needs a tax advisor to answer that for you. And Derek says, of course, clickbait is the name of the game when it comes to this financial Armageddon. So thanks for hanging out with us on this cold day in the basement, everybody. You'll catch our show Monday through Friday here, wherever you're listening to podcasts. I'm Joe Salciha. We'll see you next time.
Money in the Morning is created by Joe Salciha and is brought to our channels by our producer and engineer, Richie Rutter-Reese. Stacking Benjamins and Money in the Morning are for entertainment purposes. Before making moves, consult with your financial advisor. Looking for training sessions? Kathleen Seligman's has a great suite of Stacking Benjamins tools, so head on over to learn.stackingbenjamins.com. Hoping to chat with us on the web? Say hello to Shannon Cowan, our social media guru and community manager in our Facebook group. She can be found at stackingbenjamins.com/basement. From the basement, I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. See you tomorrow.